There is a crop that produces more protein per acre than beef cattle. It fixes nitrogen from thin air, eliminating the need for chemical fertilizers. Its roots dive 15 feet deep, bringing minerals to the surface that shallow crops can never reach. For 4,000 years, it was humanity's most reliable source of complete protein. Then the meat industry convinced everyone it was only fit for animals. They did not ban it outright. They simply erased it from human food culture while keeping it as livestock feed. A plant that could solve world hunger became invisible on grocery store shelves. What you are about to discover will change how you see protein forever. Because the solution to our environmental crisis, our health crisis, and our food security crisis has been growing in fields right outside your window, but you were never supposed to eat it directly. You were supposed to feed it to cows first, then buy the meat at 10 times the cost. This is alfalfa, the queen of forages that became the forgotten superfood, and the story of why they want you to think it belongs in barns, not on your plate. Welcome to Lost Plant Remedies. Before we uncover this hidden truth, if these revelations matter to you, the best way to preserve this lost knowledge is simple. Subscribe, hit the bell, and share these discoveries with those who need to remember what we forgot. Our story opens in Persia, modern-day Iran, around 2000 BC. Persian horsemen called it aspest, meaning horse's best food. But they were not just feeding it to their horses, they were eating it themselves. Persian texts describe ground alfalfa mixed with honey as a daily food for warriors preparing for battle. The plant gave them strength that lasted through long campaigns across desert terrain. By 500 BC, the Greeks had discovered asbest through Persian trade routes. They renamed it Medike, meaning from Media, the Persian kingdom. Greek physicians prescribed it for digestive problems, joint pain, and fatigue. But more importantly, they recognized it as a complete food source during sieges when grain supplies ran low. The Romans called it medicago, the healing plant. Pliny the Elder wrote that it was worth more than gold because once established, it fed both man and beast for decades without replanting. Roman legions carried dried alfalfa cakes on long marches. The plant provided protein, vitamins, and minerals that prevented scurvy and malnutrition during extended campaigns. What the ancients understood intuitively, modern science has proven with shocking precision. Alfalfa contains 20 to 25% protein by dry weight. That protein is complete, containing all essential amino acids humans require. Compare this to wheat at 12% incomplete protein or corn at 9%. Beef cattle eating alfalfa produce meat with 18% protein. The plant they eat is more protein-dense than the meat they become. But here is where the numbers become revolutionary. 1 acre of alfalfa produces 2,000 to 4,000 pounds of protein annually. 1 acre supporting beef cattle produces only 200 to 400 pounds of protein. That means alfalfa delivers 5 to 10 times more protein per acre than the most efficient beef production systems. The environmental cost comparison is even more staggering. Alfalfa requires zero nitrogen fertilizer because it makes its own. Root nodules containing rhizobia bacteria capture atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into plant-available forms. Every acre of alfalfa removes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere while pumping nitrogen into soil that will feed subsequent crops for years. Beef production requires massive inputs: grain feed, water, fertilizers, hormones, antibiotics, and processing facilities that generate more greenhouse gases than most countries. The protein quality difference is equally dramatic. Alfalfa protein contains optimal ratios of lysine, methionine, and other essential amino acids. It delivers vitamin K at levels 5 times higher than any other green vegetable. Vitamin A concentrations rival those in liver. Calcium content exceeds that of milk. Iron levels surpass those in red meat. Chlorophyll concentrations are higher than in any cultivated green. Studies show alfalfa contains natural compounds that lower cholesterol, regulate blood sugar, and reduce inflammation. Saponins in alfalfa inhibit cholesterol absorption in the intestines. Coumarins act as natural blood thinners, reducing cardiovascular risk. Isoflavones provide hormonal balance benefits similar to those found in soy but without the processing concerns. So why have most people alive today never eaten alfalfa as food? Why do grocery stores not stock fresh alfalfa leaves, dried alfalfa powder, or alfalfa protein concentrates? Why is this nutritional powerhouse relegated to animal feed while we struggle with protein deficiency, environmental destruction, and food insecurity? The answer lies in one of the most successful marketing campaigns in agricultural history. The livestock industry needed cheap, high-protein feed to support factory farming. They could not afford to compete with human food markets for alfalfa. So they created a narrative that alfalfa was too rough, too bitter, too difficult for human digestion. They convinced everyone that animals needed to process it first, converting plant protein into meat protein before humans could safely consume it. Land-grant universities received funding to research alfalfa exclusively as animal feed. Breeding programs focused on traits that improved livestock gain, not human nutrition. Processing facilities were designed to create hay, silage, and pellets for animals, not food products for humans. The entire infrastructure was built to keep alfalfa away from human consumption. Extension services taught farmers to think of alfalfa as a forage crop, not a food crop. Agricultural departments classified it as hay, not vegetables. Even when health food stores began carrying alfalfa sprouts in the 1970s, the industry dismissed them as insignificant garnishes, not substantial protein sources. Meanwhile, something extraordinary was happening that the meat industry hoped no one would notice. Countries facing protein shortages were rediscovering alfalfa as human food. During World War II, British researchers developed alfalfa protein concentrates to prevent malnutrition. French scientists created alfalfa leaf protein that contained 40 to 60% protein, rivaling any animal source. In the Soviet Union, agricultural scientists produced alfalfa protein powders for human consumption throughout the Cold War. These products were nutritionally superior to imported meat and could be produced domestically without foreign dependence. Soviet cosmonauts consumed alfalfa protein during space missions because it provided complete nutrition in minimal weight. By the 1980s, researchers in developing countries were using alfalfa to combat malnutrition in children. Studies showed that alfalfa leaf protein could reverse protein energy malnutrition faster than any other plant source and more affordably than animal products. The United Nations recognized alfalfa as one of the most promising solutions for global protein deficiency. But in wealthy countries, none of this research translated into commercial food products. The livestock industry had too much invested in keeping alfalfa as animal feed. Every pound of alfalfa eaten directly by humans represented lost profit from meat production. Every farmer growing alfalfa for human food instead of animal feed threatened the entire factory farming model. The suppression was systematic. Food processing companies avoided alfalfa despite its superior nutrition. Restaurants never developed alfalfa-based dishes. Cookbook authors ignored alfalfa recipes that existed in other cultures. Nutritionists, trained to think of protein as synonymous with meat, rarely mentioned plant alternatives that actually contained more protein. Even environmental groups failed to promote alfalfa despite its obvious sustainability advantages. They focused on reducing meat consumption without providing practical alternatives. They criticized factory farming without mentioning that the crops feeding those animals could feed humans more efficiently. The result was a generation that grew up believing protein required killing animals while standing in fields full of plants that contained more protein than any animal product. The most sustainable protein source on Earth became invisible because it threatened too many profitable industries. But knowledge has a way of surviving suppression. In recent years, health-conscious consumers have begun rediscovering what ancient Persians knew. Companies now produce alfalfa powders, alfalfa protein concentrates, and alfalfa supplements. Farmers' markets sell fresh alfalfa for human consumption. Restaurants experiment with alfalfa microgreens and alfalfa-based dishes. Research continues revealing benefits the livestock industry hoped would remain buried. Recent studies show alfalfa compounds that boost immune function, improve liver detoxification, and enhance mineral absorption. Athletes discover that alfalfa provides sustained energy without the inflammatory effects of animal proteins. Environmental advantages become more critical every year. As climate change intensifies, agriculture needs crops that rebuild soil rather than depleting it. Alfalfa accomplishes this better than any other protein source. Its deep taproot system breaks up soil compaction, improves water infiltration, and brings trace minerals from deep subsoil layers to the surface. Water usage comparisons are equally striking. Alfalfa requires significantly less water per pound of protein than beef production. In drought-prone regions, this difference could determine food security for millions of people. Protein conversion efficiency speaks for itself. Instead of growing alfalfa to feed cows to feed humans, we could eliminate the middleman and access superior nutrition directly. The land currently growing feed crops could produce 5 to 10 times more human food if managed for direct consumption instead of animal feed. Learning to use alfalfa as human food requires understanding traditional preparation methods. Young leaves can be eaten fresh in salads, providing a mild, slightly nutty flavor. Older leaves should be cooked to improve digestibility and reduce natural compounds that can interfere with nutrient absorption. Dried alfalfa can be ground into powder and added to smoothies, soups, or baked goods. Traditional Persian recipes include alfalfa mixed with yogurt, herbs, and spices. Middle Eastern cuisines incorporate alfalfa into grain dishes, providing complete protein combinations. The simplest approach is growing alfalfa sprouts, which concentrate the plant's nutrition in an easily digestible form. These require no cooking and can be added to any meal as a protein boost that rivals meat in amino acid completeness. For those ready to embrace this hidden gem, start small, try alfalfa sprouts in salads and sandwiches, experiment with alfalfa powder in smoothies. Visit farmers markets seeking fresh alfalfa grown for human consumption. Support companies producing alfalfa-based foods rather than just supplements. Every person who discovers alfalfa as human food represents a step toward agricultural sustainability and nutritional independence. Every meal featuring alfalfa instead of meat reduces environmental impact while improving health outcomes. The livestock industry spent decades convincing us that we needed animals to process alfalfa before we could access its protein. They were wrong. We can access that protein directly, more efficiently, more sustainably, and more nutritiously than any animal product. The plant that feeds the world's animals is ready to feed the world's people. But only if we remember what the Persians, Greeks, and Romans knew 4,000 years ago. Alfalfa is not just animal feed, it is the ultimate human food, hidden in plain sight. If this hidden truth resonated with you, subscribe to Lost Plant Remedies and hit the bell. Every like and share helps preserve this forgotten wisdom. The next Lost Remedy reveals soon.